Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out, where we interview business owners that may or may not have got their GED, but every single one of them is doing cool shit in their businesses. Today, we've got Ryan Rodriguez in here with Semper Fidelis Construction and Development. Ryan, thanks for coming onto the show. Give me a little bit of a background on yourself and your company.
Gotcha. So a little bit about me. I'm a retired Marine. Did 6.5 years with 3-1 Weapons Company, Cat 1. Had a few brain injuries. Was medically retired. Got out. Had problems with people. Imagine that, a Marine not getting along with people. And then started doing my own thing. Started with some woodwork, and eventually it turned into a construction company that now is federal, pure federal. And it's changed my life, changed my family's life. I was a general contractor before that, and that was a nightmare, to say the least. But now we've opened up another company after Semper Fidelis, which is Momentum Federal Solutions. Now we onboard general public, any business in the public, into prime status to bid on federal contracts, and we also assist with bid packaging. So it's just been a change of pace the last 6.5 years in business. So it's been fun.
Walk me through kind of the phases that you're in, because we ran into each other about, I think we figured about 2.5 years ago, roughly. And even from when I ran into you and met you to where you're at now, it's like a night and day difference. But walk me through, like, even previously, like when you got out of the military, like what did that process look like, going from that exit to then starting your own kind of company and molding it into this? Like, what was that journey like?
It's so crazy because when you're active duty, like you, especially Marine Corps, you can do anything and everything all at once. Doesn't matter. There's no failure. Blah blah blah. When you get out, especially with injuries, you get out and you're like, whoa, what just happened? You're having conversations. You can't relate. You don't even want to relate because you hear excuses. You hear this. You hear that. Blah blah blah. It's brutal. It's brutal to be separated from your brothers like that after being with them for any amount of time, really, and doing deployments with them. So, getting out was, I went from Wounded Warrior Battalion West to the VA system, which was just like, whoa, this is crazy. Premium care to minimal, nobody really cares. I hate to say it that way, but come on, we all know it's the truth. And during that time, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about just being alone and figuring things out again. Because in the Marine Corps, you're getting promoted. You know what to do. You know how to get there. Blah blah blah. There's a roadmap. There's no roadmap when you get out. Okay, so I had to rewrite me. And when I made Semper Fidelis Construction Development, it was crazy because I had a couple businesses before that, restaurant industry, clubs, things like that. And I actually did a favor for somebody. And I'd love to talk about this later, which is just about giving is so much better than receiving. But I did a favor for somebody, got them out of a bind, didn't know who they were really. It was a friend that asked, and next thing I know, we're having lunch and they're inviting me to do work for the VA, doing special adaptive housing, which is for the disabled veterans. Going in, there's a grant system for them, and we would modify whatever it takes. So first contract we land, a gentleman had lost a leg. We did a modifications to his house for that. The second project we landed was paraplegic, no arms, no legs, and we had to make his home mobile through a railing system in the ceiling. Everything was voice automated, mind you. I wasn't even in construction like that, Like, I'd done some framing and I did a bathroom, but wow. And I guess, but you see the difference in the mindset is I'm going to get it done. It doesn't matter. And I
Mhm.
think that was the biggest care or pay forward that I've ever done is giving people that mindset, teaching them, even the people I hire, of there are no excuses. It's everything that happens in between your ears, no matter what. You want it, get it. You don't. I don't feel sorry for you if you don't. There's so much money out there, Paul. There's so much
Mhm.
for everybody to have. But the issue that we're having in society is, especially blue collar, is it's only about the money. And it can't be about the money. It's got to be about doing the right thing the right way for the right reasons. So wrapping that all back into what you'd asked me, in starting Semper Fidelis and rolling through the punches of construction, meeting you 2.5 years ago was when we had already just started our prime status with the federal government, because we're right at 3 years now. And we were doing what, hundreds to 700,000, something like that. I don't even know. And that was residential.
Mm-hmm.
So once we started bidding heavy and getting into the process, letting the snowball build itself, what happened was the following year, after committing fully into just bidding and putting out at least 5 bids a month, and now we're at 1.2, 1.5, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, just this quarter alone, we've already hit 1 million, and we've got another 2.5 scheduled. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to triple down our revenue this year alone, and it's just been a crazy change because when I first met you, I mean, I was sick, man. My skin was gray. I was pussing and bleeding from the face. Well, we hadn't visually seen each other, but I was in a bad place, man. I was in the hospital multiple times. I was throwing up. It was terrible. It was not necessary, but it's what so many people feel is okay, and it's not. You think, oh, I've got all this progress. I've got all this stuff scheduled. No, man, you got nothing if you're not building the foundation first. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was the hard reset for me coming out of the Marine Corps. You have so much foundation, right? So now you're leaning on your foundation, and then everybody around you is kind of like, they got subcontractors just giving it to you sideways. You got customers not paying. You got, marketing. All these people are talking bad about you for no reason. They think you're another company. I had that happen quite a bit. And then I don't know, every direction. But finally, when
Yep.
I took a step back, dove into it for federal, it was a life changer. It was a life saver. Well, God first was my lifesaver, who gave me the ideas and helped me throughout the process. But wow, is all I can tell you, Paul. We're about to start a group just about federal construction that will help push people towards momentum. But this group is going to, one, give foundation. And what I mean by that is, you can't get anywhere without discipline and structure. End of
Mm-hmm.
story. Can't convince me otherwise. I've met some people in the Blue Collar Millionaire group, and all great people, all great people. But some of them, they'll do high revenue and they're not taking home anything, and it's kind of like, you're making 15, 20, 30 times what I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
What?
See it
So,
every
but it's
day.
real. It's out there, and
Every day.
it's so eye opening to me because I'm not one to be out and about or post live videos. I never have been. I'm about to be, but I've always been, just real. What's the word? To myself per se. Just keep it
Yeah.
in the company. Put your head down. Shut up and work. But now that I've opened myself up to the public and the business world, it's been very, very, very eye opening. I mean, it's a lot of change needs to happen, and I think this is my part to actually give back. So,
No, I 100% agree with the changes that need to happen. I think some are. I think there's a pretty good kind of revival that's coming up with a lot of these owners where, it used to be if you reached out to anybody that was in your industry, whether they were a competitor for you or not, they, nope, trade secrets, sorry, can't help you. Now there's a lot more people that are willing to jump in and mentor and help. Some of these younger guys, some of these newer people coming into the industries, right? I mean, that stuff is all important. My dad was I was never a veteran. My dad was a veteran, retired, Vietnam. He passed away 4.5 years ago. And, kind of some of the things he raised us on was always, if you have information that can benefit the greater good of others, right? It is our responsibility as humans to provide that information without gatekeeping it or putting any kind of barrier in place. And so as I've kind of started this business, that was one of the things that I really set out to was there's a lot of information that's out there that intentionally gets left in the dark from a lender standpoint, from a broker standpoint, from insurance standpoint, from everywhere, right? I mean, taxes, like everything, right?
everything.
So our goal as a company was always how do we provide a ton of value and put the data and information out there that people can actually go and take action off of the stuff that we give and have actual true results that benefit and make them better. I mean, that's how we've always operated our business. So I align with that. How do you bring value to people? How do you enhance people's lives, even if they're not an actual client of yours? Maybe they're just a blip and you just meet them one time. How do you make their life better after you leave them than when it was before you ever met them, right? I mean, that's always a goal of mine. So I align with that a lot. And then to your point of lots of companies are running high revenue. They look the part, they maybe feel the part, but man, when we get inside of them and we start looking at what's actually going on, I'm sitting here going like I said right before we started this call, we're one wind shift away from these companies collapsing and going bankrupt. And I've seen it. I've watched a few of my clients that I've had and tried to help general contractor that they were working with changed kind of their opinion on the company and just buried them because they were bigger and they knew they would outlast them, and now they're bankrupt. right? So how do you as a company, and this is a question for you as well, like what are some of the things that you've done to go, okay, because at some point we all have to go, if it's going to be, it's got to be me. How do I retain control of this and actually steer the ship? And I'm guessing for you, that's kind of what led you into the federal portal, right?
Yeah, it was so out of control because we got money, we got a lot of checks coming in, different avenues, residential, commercial, but you try to grow it, you try to water the plant, and nothing's happening. And then you've got these morally bankrupt people that you find that look great on paper, you know. This has to be talked about more too because their references check out, their resume looks good, blah 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 blah, and they're the worst thing that could happen to you. And it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa. Uh, Crossing over into the federal space, what it's allowed me to do is to one offer more money because after we won our first couple jobs, I mean, profit margins are pretty crazy. It's there. It's definitely there. Can't say too much about that, but you know what I'm saying.
No, that's fair.
It's helped me create the infrastructure that I need to take the step back. And when I really started trusting people like Rebecca, prime example, she was my first one that I brought in that was very impactful to the company, to myself. Brought her in, this was me getting out of the hospital, couldn't take it anymore. Something had to change. I had to pass the torch. And she's been everything I've needed her to be and more. She helped me trust again. And in doing that, I've got the chance to pour into her and see her do things better than I could have done them. And that's the hardest part, I think, for business owners is passing that torch and trusting. But you have to. It's if not, you're never going to scale. You're never going to grow. So I've watched her now pour into the number two and the number three of the company. I'm sorry, the number three and the number four, and see them watching them develop as well as giving my training classes in addition to what she's doing. It's really put that layer of safeguard in between myself and the company because now there's two layers below me to get to everybody else that's working the company, and that's everybody's just important as the rest. And I think where so many people miss the mark is culture. It's just straight up culture. One thing I talk about every Monday meeting is do the right thing the right way for the right reasons. And it's not just semper fidelis, it's momentum as well, because a lot can happen just by being a good dude, being a good person. End of story. There's no excuse. I've jumped on meetings, calls with people, and it's like, what? Wait, are you talking to me? I don't even know you. And you're talking to me like, just wow. And that's a norm for them. And it's sad because, you know, golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated. And it's or love your neighbor as love yourself, or you know
Yeah.
what I'm getting at. But
Yep.
it's scary. It's scary because in the beginning, like I said, I really just stayed in my bubble. Now it's like, well, these are conversations that I'm hearing often. And I guess
Well,
that's why it's so scary because it's a lot in the federal space.
and I want to kind of backpedal to what you said about, these people that they look good, they come highly referred, they're vetted, they're trusted, they're all these things. Um, and I see this a lot in the banking space. I see this a lot in the broker space. I see this a lot in the CFO space, CPAs, right? Like, oh, this person's trusted, they're vetted. We think that they should be the ones that you guys work with. Then you get in and start working with them. And then you see kind of how they do deals and what they're doing. And then you see the back end of it and you're like, man, this isn't this isn't healthy. This isn't good. You're not doing this in the best interest of the owners that you're working with. You're doing this in the best interest of yourself. Now, don't take that I'm somebody that's against making money for yourself, because we've all got families to feed. We've all has to make money. What I am against though is intentionally manipulating a process or a system or numbers or data to benefit yourself when that isn't necessary, because you're already making enough money if you would have just left it at the base level it is, or if you wouldn't have upsold what your actual skill sets are, or if you would have just done what you said you were going to do and didn't come into that company and steal a bunch of money or do a bunch of all this stuff, right? I mean, I see all of it, man.
Mhm.
There's it's wild what we actually end up getting into when we dive into that. But like that piece of it, I agree with you. I mean, that needs to get highlighted a lot more. How do you discern if that person's good or not, especially if they're coming from somebody that you trust?
You know, I've been given a gift, Paul. It's going to sound really weird, but I just feel people, and it's been a great tool for me. God is good, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of what my superpower per se. And really, I like to dive in the weeds either way about whoever it is that I'm going to do business with. I don't even have any partners right now, and it's kind of one of those things where I took a partner in the past. It was a bad partnership, whatever, but it was a morally bankrupt person. I should have known better at the time, but it was a learning lesson because financially they were stable. And now it's more of like who aligns with my views, and that's the biggest thing that I even ask my team before they even bring somebody to me is is this person a fit for what we're trying to accomplish? And what I mean by fit is, are they helping other people? you know are they screwing other people? Because we everybody hears about things. You already know how it is. I mean, I get calls about things and I'm like, what? I don't even, okay, one, I don't even want to know that. And then another call's like, they said that about me. Okay, cool, whatever. I don't even care. It's kind of like, you know, when you hold a standard and you have a line drawn, you
Yeah.
have a tendency to create enemies. And I don't even want to
Yep.
say enemies because I don't not like anybody. It's about accountability. I hold myself
Yeah.
accountable every day. I hold my team accountable every day. So, yeah, there's a vetting system in place for us, for people that we work with
For sure.
to answer that.
I'm a I'm a lot like you are. I trust my gut a lot on people, and I've never really been wrong when I just go off of my initial like intuition on somebody, even just on a phone call. Like if I get a sense of like what's trying to be hidden here, what's actually going on, what are you not saying, what's the black swan of this whole deal that could unwind everything. One of the first lessons I learned in sales is what is the incentive of the person sitting across the table from me. And when you start to think like that, it makes you decipher a lot more than just face value, but also it makes you value human tendencies a lot more than just the incentive side, right? Like we hire based off of our culture. So I would rather hire somebody that doesn't actually have the specific skill set that I need, so to speak, but is the right attitude and the right mindset of a person that I can bring in and plug in where I need to in the company, because I think that matters more sometimes than the skill set. Now, if they've got the skill set and the attitude, perfect, right? But I would rather have good team players that are effort people, that are teachable and coachable, that just want to go out and serve others than try to go find a team of super high level skill set people, but maybe they don't align with the way I think. It's like, because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. But I see that happen a lot with companies.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, and I'll take it to this extreme. I mean, we stopped hiring people that were seasoned for Semper Fidelis because of that alone. It's the mindset from these other industries or other companies. The majority do not align with how we do things or the way we think. So we actually hire the majority with zero experience. And we train them. We take them on site, hold their hand, not literally, but you know what I'm saying, hold the pocket, right? But we guide them through the whole process, and we've had better results over the last few years doing that than we have doing anything else. It's crazy. So it actually opened up the market for us for for hiring, because before, you got a guy that wants 10,000 a month and it's realistically offering you like $2,000 worth of work. And it's like, you just lost 3 weeks of time and you cost me 15 grand, but you want to get paid. I'm good, man. You're fired. So, we've had to have that tough conversation more often than not. And it's terrible because, now we're talking about losses of what, 7,500. Just throw a low number, because really that's a low number, 7,500, right? I've had guys on sites, they just doing things that they should not have been doing on site, turning around and costing 30, 40, 50,000. It's like, are we, is this real life? But it's real life. It's sad. So yeah.
Yep. It is the reality of operating any business at any level. Is you're always going to have people that make mistakes, and I learned when I was in automotive from from our general manager, who's the owner of the store now. He was always like, look, like there's two things that I will never get mad at people for. Those two things are do right by the customer. And if you make a decision that you think is in the best interest of the customer and it costs us money, you will never lose your job.
Yeah.
As long as you can back up your reasoning and your thought process. That's all I ask. He's like, I will never be mad at you. He's like, I might get heated, but then when we talk through the process and you are able to go, this is why I did this, here's how it led to this result, and this is why this happened. He's like, I will always stand behind you and defend that decision. Right. And so there's a lot of that I think that is there too. And sometimes I think owners are too fast when somebody makes a screw up. Of like, well, why did you do this? Like, you cost us all this money and now you're fired. When really the process should have been like, why did you do this? What influenced this decision? Was it just a straight accident? Was it neglect? Or was there an actual reason behind this? Accidents happen. I get that. Neglect is a whole different thing. That's just not paying attention to details. But is there more? Like, was there more to this? Did the owner come out and confront you and get all heated about something? And so you just made it right in that moment for what they were trying to do to, settle that stuff. And then we'll figure it out later. Right. What does that all, what does your process look like around that?
Okay, so golly, you're saying this and you're taking me back because we always try to go back. Well, so here's the thing, and this is what people don't understand, or I don't feel they have a solid grasp of, is as an owner, no matter what happens, it's your fault. And the way I always do it is if there's an issue, it's my fault. If there's praise to be given, it's somebody else. Because what I try to preach to my team is that Semper Fidelis is not me. It's you guys who do all of these great things that make it happen. The reviews that are good are you guys. The awesome PPQs, which is a government form of rating, this is you guys. That's not me. I'm just, the guy hitting the wave tops, influencing in general direction. But when it comes to a bad hire or anything, my question is always, what did we do wrong? And we have to dissect that as leaders to make it better. And I think that's the hardest part is how far do you go until you realize, holy moly, maybe it's not us, because you used a key word there, negligence. And I think that is a very, very accurate word for what's happening out there. Even right now, I'm suing 2 subcontractors because of non-performance. And it's kind of like, you didn't read the scope of work. Okay, so that's not me anymore. We had a pre-construction meeting. I broke it down for you. My team was there. It's recorded. We reached out to you weeks in advance about what needs to happen. The Gantt chart is there, which shows the whole schedule of events. What do you mean you didn't understand and you didn't order what we needed, and now we're 8 weeks behind schedule just because you didn't order what was needed on a 90-day lead time? I mean, and I think that was. We are so critical with ourselves, which again, part of our culture, right? You're blaming yourself before you're pointing at somebody else. It just gets a little scary when you start seeing things that are outside of your control like that happen, like what I just explained. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
you try to safeguard it, but really it's a part of blue collar.
you hit the nail on the head with laying out your processes, right? One of the things I always tell my team, because here, look, like when the way we do our services, it's a service, right? We don't get in, we can't do all the work for people. And so when owners reach out to me, hey, this program's not working, this isn't doing this, you guys haven't reached out to me, blah, 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 right? Whatever it is. And some of it's valid, I'll admit that, but I always tell my team, I will never throw you guys under the bus. I'm first going to go look and see what actually happened. And so if you guys aren't properly documenting and tracking and progress, and we're not taking notes, and we're not recording calls, and we're not doing all this stuff, now you leave me with no option but to actually believe the owner's complaints. But if you guys are doing all those things and I can point that out, I will never throw a team member under the bus. I will always go, well, actually, we've been trying to do this and we've had these conversations and we've been through this several times and you continue to not follow our process. So maybe it's time for us to fire you and move on, right? I mean, maybe you're just not a good fit for us. But that part of it in the process and the culture is make sure everything you're doing is clearly detailed, drawn out, laid out, so that if something does go awry, we can protect ourselves, we can protect you, and then we can go back and we can fight back where we need to, when we need to. I mean, that's just the way it is.
It really is.
It's extra work, but it's necessary work.
I agree with you. I mean, you said it, all calls, I mean, even on our end, all calls are recorded for quality assurance. We did a lot of insurance work before we got into the government. And even with that, they'll twist some words and it didn't happen. It's not in writing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's everywhere. And it's just sad that it's come to that, but that is what it is, especially when you're dealing with higher dollar contracts.
Yeah.
It's got to be in writing or it doesn't exist. End of story.
Human nature. Right. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that is human. That is in human nature to do that. That is in consumer nature to be that way. When I talk to contractors and they're like, "Oh man, I got these clients and they keep doing chargebacks and they keep getting mad about the job," I'm like, "What are you documenting? Where was the original agreement in the contract? How well laid out was this? Like, did you have any pre-signatures on some of this stuff before you actually started the process?" The amount of guys that don't do some of that stuff is crazy to me. But also, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like sometimes it's just literally like I left my job because I hated my boss. Now I'm just going to start my own business. But you need to know what you're getting into before you're doing it. And you need to do things in a way that always protects the integrity of your character, first and foremost, even if there's more steps involved in that process, right?
Yeah.
And then you can go back and do what's right by the customer as long as it's all in alignment with your contract and you're able to do it from a foundational standpoint, right? You can't just give people everything they want. Otherwise, you're going to go out of business really, really fast.
Race to the bottom. People do it. It's crazy. So,
Yep.
you can teach a man to fish, but believe it or not, a lot of times they don't want to learn to fish. That's sad.
No, you're right. A kind of last little point to touch on before we kind of wrap up the podcast here, but there's so much information and data out there. So much. Everything is more accessible than it's ever been. But the one thing I continue to see that is truer than anything else, whether you're using AI, whether you're reading books, whether you hire a mentor or coach, is if you, the person doing this stuff, is not ready to take accountability for your flaws, your weaknesses, make changes, and implement the information that you are acquiring and getting, you can pay an infinite amount of money and you'll never progress past where you're at. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. This blue collar, the whole space, I mean, actually really any industry, but specifically blue collar, because that's, where I come from, is you have to be a student to life. You have to always want to learn, grow or die. I saw a movie the other day, The Founder, I don't know if you've seen it, about McDonald's. And it talks about the guys that stood up, the two brothers that stood up McDonald's, right? Couldn't get franchises off the ground, just did great with the one location they had. But here comes this other guy that they partnered with, and he took it times 10. And he ended up kicking him out, pushing him out by doing a workaround because they wouldn't change. So he figured out a way to get him out. Mm-hmm. And then look at what McDonald's is now. It was funny because my wife and I, we saw it together. My son loved it too. It was pretty cool that he got it. But we were watching it and she's like, "That's just terrible. I can't even believe that this is McDonald's and the brothers, never should have happened. They should have been the ones that should have stayed with them." And I said, "Why?" And I said, I can't stand the moral dilemma. Yes, I understand it. But McDonald's wouldn't be what McDonald's is right now if it wasn't for that. And it's sad, but look what it did. So crazy, Yep. Just crazy.
100%, man. I know you do some government contracting. I also know that you do some work with helping people position themselves for getting into government contracting. If anybody's interested in learning more about that, what is the best way for them to reach out and find you?
MomentumFederalSolutions.com. ChooseMFS.com. Reach out to us. We can talk to you about your business. We can let you know where you can position yourself in the federal market. If you're a tire shop, the government needs it. If you're a restaurant, government needs it. It's anything you can think of, the government needs it. And we're not even talking about GSA yet, which is like Amazon for the government. So yes, there is an Amazon to the government. Regardless, let's have a conversation. Reach out. We do consulting services as well. Maybe you only want to talk. That's fine. Schedule something. Let's get you in there with the customer that is evergreen, which is the government, meaning you do your job and do things the way you say you're going to do it. You will get paid and you have less to worry about. So please reach out, change your life the way I did.
Yeah. No, man, I appreciate you taking time. I appreciate you, being a client with us. I appreciate the relationship we've been able to grow over the last couple of years. And I look forward to kind of seeing where that goes as well. But most importantly, I appreciate you taking the time out and sharing your story, background on the podcast, Roll Up, Roll Out today. So for those of you listening, please like and share, subscribe, get this out there. People need to hear everybody else's stories. Whether you think you have a unique story or not, you do. And you were put here on this earth for a very specific reason, and that's to share the knowledge and the talents that you have. So do it. And you get that opportunity on Roll Up and Roll Out podcast. If you want to be a guest, hit me up and we will get you on the show. For the rest of you, we'll see you next episode.
Paul, real quick. Thank you for all you've done. Your company has been awesome. You've helped me get new trade lines. You've helped me increase my business credit. You're blue sky. You guys are number one to me. Appreciate you.
Appreciate the shout out.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Take care.